You are about to experience an episode of Best People, Best Place with Matt Granados. Listen in as Matt and today's guests reveal the ways their company invests in people, along with feedback from those very people. Get ready to soak up wisdom as you hear what the best places are doing to create success through the development of people.
All right, well, we are excited today. Best People, Best Places podcast. We are here with Dr. Austin Cohen. I'm excited about this. You heard in the intro all the stuff that he's done, but you want me to call you Dr. Cohen, Dr. Austin, Austin Cohen? What do you want me to call you?
Austin, preferred, please. Thank you.
So, and it's so funny with you coming with that, with asking as a doctor to not be called doctor, just because what we're going to jump into is how you've built Corrective Chiropractic to be one of the best places, one of the fastest growing companies. I mean, you guys have a lot of awards, but the one we're going to talk about today is Best Place to Work. You guys have been an amazing example of what it is to have a good place for not just yourself, not just your employees, but also for your clients. So tell me a little bit about it with the fact that you have kind of such a laid back personality, but also a very demanding go-getter, high achieving personality at the same time. And you have an interesting blend of that. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you started Corrective, and how you've kind of built it to the culture that you have now.
Yeah. So quick background, and I appreciate you guys doing this. I've learned a lot from you guys, and hopefully some of the stuff we'll share as well will be a lot of that content, and there's definitely be a lot of value provided today. So I can tell you, we started in 2009, and that's when I started my first location in Atlanta, Georgia. It was just me and my front desk person, and that was it. And as time went on, my goals and vision just began to change, and as far as what I wanted to create and what I wanted to do as a person in this world. And so in 2015, we expanded into our second location, Sandy Springs, about 20 minutes away from our primary location. And then a year later, we went to another location. And then every year after that, we kept expanding to between 2 to 3 locations. We're at 12 locations in 2021, and it's been a great ride. So basically been averaging now, what's crazy to think is now we're averaging more than 1 location per year that I've been in business. We're like 1.1, or I guess would be the average or something like that. So 12 over the 11 years. So it's been a great journey. We've expanded our team, our technology, everything we do as a company, we've expanded over those last 12 years, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. Well, and I think you guys have done an amazing job doing it. The research that we've done has shown of what you've done has been unlike other companies. So let's go into this. We break this down into 3 sections. The first one's going to be how you grow your people. Second is how you grow the business. And third is how you give back to your people, your community, and your customers. So this entire podcast is sponsored by Life Pulse Inc., which is an international training and consulting company that helps individuals and companies combine intention and structure in order to make sure that you're achieving whatever goals that you want. So when it comes to those topics, I always like to ask people, when it comes to growing your people, what makes you all special, right? We're going to get into what your employees told us in a bit, but from you, what makes you special? There's a lot of businesses that have made this list. There's a lot of lists out there. I found there's 2 ways to get on the list. One, you can earn it. The other, you can buy it, meaning just have your employees all vote for you. But what is it that literally makes you special being on this list when it comes to being the best place to work?
Yeah. So the short answer to this is going to be expectation management. That's the very quick answer. Now, there's obviously a lot that goes into that expectation management, but for us, it starts with our core values, and we've defined our core values from the day we started the company, and we review these core values with all of our employees and all of our team to make sure that they're on the same page as well. So, and the standard is set there. So an example that I could share is just from a value perspective of some things people could be doing as well that we've done that's worked for us is when we hire, we always tell them what our core values are, and that's the standard we expect. So one of our core values is E9, which means we expect you to perform at a 9 or above in all areas as far as what we do here. And after 30 days, there's one recent employee who we interviewed, and we asked her, we said, hey, how would you rank yourself right now? She said a 7 out of 10. We said, all right, well, you said that, just so you know, our core value is, and we expect a 9 out of 10 or above. What can we do to support you? How can we help you get there? You're a great person, but how do we get you to that level from an employment standpoint to that 9 out of 10? And so she gave us some feedback. We spent the next 30 days working on it. And it was almost like she was firing herself because she knew the expectation and couldn't get to that level. And so for us, that expectation is set from the beginning. There's high level communication as well, having that communication and that standard. So we don't just hire people and throw them in and fire them if we think they're bad, right? There's a whole level of leadership that we want to provide for them, support that we want to provide for them. And it's always done by setting the expectation from day one. And so I would say that's probably like the shorter answer from there.
No, that's great. And I think expectations are things that people don't recognize. Having high expectations are not the issue. Having high expectations that aren't communicated properly, that's what leads to issues, right? Whether it's with what you're doing in business or with a relationship. The other thing you talked about were core values. And a lot of people talk about core values. And one thing I've found, and tell me if you do anything to counter this, is people kind of pick core values because they sound good. Whereas what you just told me was you tell the core value, but then you explain what it means. Because again, one thing, level 9 to me might be different than what you're talking about. So how in depth do you go into when you're explaining the core values to people versus just giving them a list of the 5 words that sound cool?
Yeah. So for us, our core values we defined them at a retreat as a company. And we asked ourselves, who are we as a company and who do we want to be? And then from there, we started just writing out words and creating sentences and put together our core values. And we have 4 of them. And so we did that together as a team. And yes, so whenever we do interview and we hire, it's always, Matt, we're going to run through our core values with you. If any of these rub you the wrong way or you don't feel like you fit this, please let us know. No hard feelings. And kind of like you said, like, yeah, I'm a very laid back person, but also like we run a tight ship here, but it always ties back just to the expectation management. So if somebody gets fired or they leave, they're leaving on their own terms, or they just couldn't fit the model, which is completely fine. Like we're still friends with a lot of people who don't work here anymore, actually.
Right.
Based on like what we've created here, but we do talk about those core values a lot. What's interesting is in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we actually dove into our core values even more because we want to make sure that we didn't make decisions based on emotion, fear, ego, none of that. And we could have made and a lot of companies were making like Hail Mary decisions in like the first quarter of a pandemic, which is like the worst thing of all time. It's like, it wasn't the end of the game. Like the pandemic just started. And I understand like the gyms and the restaurants, there's a lot more going on, but a lot of them pivoted and adapted really well. And we wanted to find, how are we going to pivot and adapt, but tie back into the core values? So one of our core values is family first, patients first. So we wanted to ask ourselves, when the pandemic started, we said, what are all the things we can do as a company to provide patients first? What can we do? So, we started creating our private Facebook groups and adding content, started creating immune system packets to ship to patients. We started offering home services. We started offering all these, home care kits for patients to do spinal exercises while they're cooped up in their house. Smart. So we tried to think of like, all right, what can we do from a patient's first perspective, and just dove into those core values. So yeah, a lot of companies, you're right, do just think of cool words. They study companies like Amazon and Apple and, reiterate those words. But for us, we wanted to really make sure that we live by these core values. I mean, it is exactly the people we hire are part of those core values. So we're very, very in depth in that.
I think it's amazing. And the amount of times I hear people talk about core values and don't recognize the value of core values, right, when used properly. And I love the fact that what you just said was you had your team help you build the core values, which gave ownership to them, which brought meaning to them, and which brought value to them. And there's so many times where, again, people hear the core values, they see the manager not following one. And we always say hypocrisy is the biggest killer of any motivation, right? When you see that, it's different. The one thing I love about you is like, I know your company, I know you, it's almost the exact same. Like, this is the Austin you get, whether you're a new patient, an old patient, a friend, or an employee. Like, this is the Austin you get. So I think that's great. And that's a huge point of anyone who's listening, just on making sure if you're going to use core values, you actually use them. Don't just create them to put them on the wall. Otherwise, just put, hard worker and tape that on the wall. It's about the same value, if not worse, if you go against them. So cool. So tell me some things. And I've already kind of asked you of what makes you different. Give me some more things that works for you. Like, you're not a small business, right? So it's one thing to be like, all right, well, you don't have all the time in the world to focus on building a good culture, right? You needed to put systems in place to do it. So what are some of the things when it came to building this as one of the best places to work in your area? What are some of the things that you did to make sure you never lost sight of the company, right, as you're trying to grow it and create sales?
Well, I think one of the first things is, and we kind of hit it a little earlier, just didn't use the language, is extreme ownership is really big in our company. And so if an employee does something wrong or messes up, I take ownership of that I did a bad job of training them. Now, if it happens multiple times, then I take ownership on the fact I just didn't get rid of them, right? So in our company, extreme ownership is like a huge mindset. And so with that said, though, people, I have to know the people in this company. And as we've grown from before when I would have one person at the front, I would usually talk to them like I like to be spoken to. And I would speak to their Enneagram like my Enneagram. And I would speak to their love language like my love language. And, for me, physical touch is a 0. But to some of my employees, like if I just pat them on the shoulder and tell them they did a good job, that's like everything to them because they got that little physical touch. So for us, what I'm getting at is I do assessments on every employee.
Right.
So every employee that starts at this company, I have them do their love language. I have them do the Enneagram test. I have them do their DISC profile and what's their one goal for the year and what's their word of the year. So I have them do all those 5 things every year. And I have an Excel spreadsheet that has every single employee, when they were hired, when their last review was, what's their next benchmark in order for them to get a raise, what's their love language, Enneagram, all this data, right? And so because I've learned that I can't keep speaking to people the way I like to be spoken to because some people are different. Right. And if I speak to some people the way I like to be spoken to, they shut down. Yeah. And I can't have a bunch of Austins running around this company. It's nice to have some people who appreciate quality time and physical touch and gifts and service. And I'm a 3 Enneagram. I love when there's like a 6 or 9s or 8s or 5s, So it works really well. And for us, that was a big pivotal point was when I started to study my people and to realize not everybody's going to like me. And that's perfectly fine. But I had to learn how to communicate to everybody differently based on their love language, their Enneagram, and what their goals are over the year and support them in that. And so things we've done, for instance, when we do company events, they're always designed to hit people at everybody's love language and everybody's Enneagram. So whether we do a rafting down the river in the Chattahoochee River, whether we go to Topgolf, whether we do company calls once a month, we hire people to come out and do like leadership training, like we've hired you guys before to do. All those things just compound and really hit every single person for what their values are.
Right. Well, and I think the other fun part and the part that I love hearing when you do this is having a system where you're running these assessments, but you actually use them, right? Like a lot of people do these things and put their employees through the ringer of all these assessments, all these questions, all these, hey, I want all this data, and then they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you have a spreadsheet and you said you look at it regularly and you're trying, when you're building out a system that you're going to bring into your company, you're looking at all the different pieces and trying to hit, like you said, one thing that matches with everybody. And that's, again, it's these things are never a surprise when we do these interviews, but they're always so, it's like a breath of fresh air when we hear them again and again by people, which just show that, truth doesn't change, right? The application does. So let's jump into the second section, which is all about growing the business and your people, like I said, at the same time, because it's somewhat synonymous with it. And this section is actually supported by a nonprofit, Eagle University. Eagle University is a leadership program that helps students 15 to 25 years old get a 7-year career head start. So pouring in, if you're thinking of what that means, what do you wish you knew when you were 15? And that's what Eagle U teaches to students on campus at a college for about a week. It's an amazing program. So we're talking about building your company and pouring into your people. What is it you do specifically for your people, right? Well, we just talked about were a lot of things that you do for the company, right? What is it you do for your people when it comes to growing them?
So, I think one question you asked my employees one time that really shook me up and it really woke me up was, you said, if nothing changes, how much longer would you stay at this company for?
Right.
And some of the answers were like typical employee at any company, right? It's like 2 years, 3 years. I don't know if anybody said forever or 10 years, right? And so for me, that was just a wake-up call to think, wow, like what could we be doing in here? Or who do I need to become in order for people to want to stay forever?
Right.
And so, some of the things that what we do here for our employees, we do bring in a lot of, like I said, we do bring a lot of outside people for leadership training. One thing I've learned is that everybody here loves to have like future pacing. Every employee of mine wants to know where they're going. What are some of the goals they need to hit in order to hit the next benchmark? How are they growing personally and professionally, right? And these are all things that we bring people on to share with them is, everyone always thinks like, when they think of careers, it's always like that 3% increase every year or
right.
5% increase or whatever it is, or just climbing the corporate ladder. But for us, it's like, I want to grow people, right? And that to me is like the most important thing. Like I want when these people, as the years go on, that they are better for this world. Like they are just better humans for this world. And if I look at it from that perspective, not like what can they do for me, like what can I do for them? That's when everything changes.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of gifting as well. Like I bought books for them, and then we'll have the actual author come out and do the talk to surprise them. And we do a lot of happy hours. We do a lot of gatherings together. We do a lot of, one thing I've also learned that I think is important as we do as a team is we do quarterly retreats. Each office does their own quarterly retreat, and the team gets together, and the team sets the goals for the quarter. What are the things they're working on? What are their big goals? What are their numbers that they're looking to hit? And one thing I've found is that the office managers, the value they feel and the ownership they have in that, I mean, it's just constantly, because it's like every quarter versus getting bored and everything stays redundant. They have no goals to look forward to. They're usually going to jump ship and move on to the next company.
Yeah.
And so for us, as quarterly retreats have been a huge thing for us.
I think something you said, it's fascinating, right? Is how many businesses out there are building their business for their team so that their team stays with them forever, right? Not in the sense of like, hey, you need to stay with me forever, but in the sense of them wanting, like, why would I go anywhere else? And it's funny, when we started working together, I remember you brought that up of like, wow, like you were bothered that people ever wanted to leave. And I was like, my first reaction was, man, that's just how business works. But that's not, just because that's how society has built business to work doesn't mean that's how we have to accept it, right? Like we have to be content with the fact that, look, people are just going to come and go as they please. But if you're actually offering them exactly what they want at a pay that they can, live the life they want, and you're offering not just financial benefits, but like what we did with your program, right? When we did our motivation management, but we're offering the fact of helping them live the life they want to live, which you've done that with your people since I've left again and again and again, to now build a job or an offering or a business where why would they go anywhere else? And I bet you a lot of the listeners here, if you were to ask yourself, how long will my people stay here? All things staying constant. And I don't know anyone who would be confident in saying forever. And I don't think you're at that point either. I don't know, maybe you are, but to be striving to get there, right? That constant getting better and better and better would be, hey, are you building a place that your lowest level to highest level have the growth they need or have the structure they need to be able to do that job theoretically forever because you're providing what the person needs?
Yeah. And for us, one thing I had to get over, a limiting belief I had, was office managers. It was tough, right? In my head, I was like, well, how high can office managers really grow? Because like, where can they get to? Some things I realized too as well was when I was talking earlier about how when I speak to people the way I want to be spoken to, listen, not everybody cares about money. I mean, people, I know a lot of employers will entice their employees with money.
Yeah.
I do that for all my employees. Honestly, some of them, they don't care. They'd rather say to them, hey, Matt, you know what? This Friday or next Friday, I want you to take that time off. It's paid. Go spend time with your family.
Right.
Like it would take that over like a check for a couple $100. Or if I bought them like a gift, or I got them a gift card for a dinner, or I did something for them special, for them, it means way more than any dollar amount. And a lot of companies think that everything's about money. Right. And it's not. Usually maybe if like at the managerial role or like even higher, like the CEO level, of course, like we think about revenue all the time. That's all we think about. But at the end of the day, kind of like I said earlier, like I'm just trying to build good people, not for my company. Like I just want to build good people for the world and create a great environment for them to want to work in. And then synergistically, that's how it all works, versus just thinking like, all right, how could I train this person to help me grow?
Right.
And it's like completely wrong mindset, which is how most companies think.
Right. And I think what ends up happening, the byproduct of growing the people, is you grow the place, you grow the business, right? And that's where the title of this entire podcast came from. Was it's not best places, best people. It's best people, best places. And that's how we found the majority of people who are in your position, recognized as one of the best places to work, have followed that process. They've poured into their people, right? It's not about getting a foosball machine and a kegerator and putting it in your office, or for you, a kombucha-ator, right? Whatever you drink now. But yeah.
The thing is, for us at least, and I think every CEO will probably go through this at some point, like I went through maybe about a year ago, was, you get to this point where you're actually growing really fast. We've been on Inc. 5000 now for 2 years in a row. We were pace setter for Atlanta. So we've been growing really fast, and you grow really fast, and you don't, as a CEO, you're not used to that like massive growth, but you're used to it. Like I'd be used to it by doing all the work. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not doing all the work. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, is this really happening? why don't I not feel needed right now? I don't feel valued as a CEO because they're not asking me for help all the time, and they're doing it by themselves. And it's such a weird feeling because you're so used to doing it all, and I'm not anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like the goal is to be replaceable. And when you build good people, you can be replaceable. And that's not even just for the CEO, for managers, right? Would you not agree? If you had a manager underneath you who was able to get everything done and follow what they were doing, right? Some of the clinics, I know that you're not in everybody's business. You can't. You're not here all over the place. You're all over the country, right? So you can't be in every single location, which is so interesting because your industry, few people do what you do. Branch out the way you do, grow the way you do. And the reason why is because you literally, I mean, they're like your family when they come in, right? So this is just kudos to you on just how well you take care of your people. And I'm not surprised that you're seeing the success you're seeing and the consistency and that feeling of like, am I needed anymore? Right. And that's a hard feeling sometimes, but that's the goal. A lot of the managers that we work with, our goal is to go, look, your job's not to do it for them. It's to kind of get rid of the roadblocks so they can do it. Right. We're not here to babysit. We're here to let them be themselves and do the job. So kudos to you on that. There's not a lot of people who can say that they're able to do it. What are some other things that you've done for your team, whether investments that you've made in your people or things you've done for your team that no one could read in a book, and you kind of have to take out what you and I did because that's in our book, right? But like as far as motivating people, building intention, bringing structure to people, what are some things that you've done to build the people in your place to help you become one of the better places to work in the city?
Yeah. So for us, I mean, I can tell you right now, 90+% of my employees, their love language is quality time. And so for us, like I said, the retreat's a big thing. Every December for the second weekend in December, we do our company retreat. And I mean, that right there is the hallmark. That's why I like the pinnacle for our company. We hire, and I can't share who we're hiring this year, but it's a very well-known professional speaker, not Matt Granados, another very well-known professional speaker. So that right there, if you were to ask any one of my employees, you said, hey, what would you say is the hallmark event or like thing that Corrective Chiropractic does for you?
Yeah.
Every single person, I bet you would put a lot of money, will say the retreat, because it is where I go, I will spend as much money as I need to, as much money as I can on this, knowing that I'm not going to see like a direct correlation to ROI.
Right.
It's going to be very indirect, but the investment though, and even still now, and now we're in August, and our retreat was in December. Even now, people are still talking about it and all the leadership stuff that we developed that they're still working on. And now we're starting to tee up. Everyone's starting to tee up now for the next retreat, which is in 3 months. And so it's to get everybody together, no matter where you are in the company, we do it. I mean, I don't care if you're the highest, low, wherever you are in the company, everybody comes to this retreat, and it is literally like the pinnacle event. But quality time for my company is like my employees, quality time is everything. Well, that's why we do monthly happy hours. We do our quarterly retreats. We do our annual retreat. We have doctor calls every 2 weeks. Like the time together is where it matters for us.
That's awesome. All right. So let's jump into the third part. This is our give back section. And where this is all about is the foundation this supports is Take Part. And Take Part is a medical research foundation that helps families and kids with rare pediatric diseases fight for possibility. Basically fight for possible in the sense of a lot of these kids and families are told that they just kind of have to wait. And not just because you're a doctor are we doing this, Austin, but I think this is so interesting on how we give back to our communities, to our business, to our teams. And before we jump into what you guys do as a community, I want to share with you some of the things that your team has said when we asked them, what's it like working there, right? It's one thing to get this, nice badge of honor of saying, hey, I'm number X, Y, and Z on whichever list you said. You listed a bunch of different awards that you've received, but what are your people saying? And so a couple things they said, team atmosphere, family-like, room for growth, always being challenged, right? So it's very similar to what you just said. But the one that I want to save, because it ties right into what you just said about the retreats that you go on and the time you spend with everybody, is culture. And the culture that you've built it was described as full of life with a contagious energy for both employees and clients. I think that's just so fascinating that you're able to build something that when people walk into your offices, employee or client, they come to life just by being there. And that's, it's a lot to be said when we ask you what you do well, but when your team asks, so reflect on some of that stuff, right? What I said, why do you think they listed those? Are you surprised by any? Are you excited about any? Why do you think they say that?
It's definitely, obviously it's exciting, right? I mean, that's every CEO's goal is to have a team of people that love to be where they are. And I would say for us, I think one of the reasons why, and I'm not saying this to brag or to, this is zero ego and bragging, by the way, but I do think that you know how I live my life, and I'm very congruent. I live a high level of integrity. And you know, I do some crazy stuff, races. And I think a lot of the employees, they look up to that from the standpoint of they know the standard, they see how I live my life.
Right.
Not that that matters that much at the end of the day, but I think it does set a standard of, if I was sitting at home preaching to my clients, hey, here's how you take care of yourself. And I'm at home, like not working out, eating junk food, you know, using soaps and conditioners that are filled with I was like, you know how I am. Like my favorite quote is, how you do anything in life is how you do everything in life. And I live that to the max. And so I would say a lot of the company and the team, they see that, and they see the energy I pour into that. And that's a thing that attracts them. I think one thing you told me one time though was, the reason why people are attracted to you is the same reason they leave you. Yeah. Because first, from the outside, everybody sees that, like, oh, look at Austin. He's doing all these races. He's in very good shape. He built a good company. There's a lot of success there. But then when you get into the nitty gritty of working at the company, you realize what it takes to get to that level. Right. Now, fortunately, we've done a better job of weeding that out, of not bringing those kind of people in based on the core values in our interviews that we do now. But I think a lot of it stems from leadership, not just me, but also like the other chiropractors on my team who are also leaders in the company as well, where they've set a standard for the company of who they are as a person. They live and breathe their core values. They live and breathe the lifestyle that we talk about to our patients. Right. We're not telling you to do one thing and we do something different. I mean, we are congruent to the max. I mean, it is, we're pretty hardcore here, as you know. So.
No, but I think it's very true, right? And it's like people come to you because you're so intense, and they leave you because you're too intense. Yeah. It's like, well, which one do you like? So you're going to run into that all the time. So let's talk about what you do, not just in your work, but outside your work. The majority of the people who I've talked to and interviewed on this usually has a focus in their community on how they're giving back to their team, their company, and their community. What are some things you all do to do that, to make a positive impact on anyone who comes in contact with your company and the community that you guys are in?
Yeah. So I think for us, we started a foundation last year called the Chiropractic for All Foundation. And the reason why we started that was because our goal in the next 10 years is to build a chiropractic clinic in downtown Atlanta that is a complimentary service for, obviously people with lower income levels and brackets. And the reason why we wanted to do that was because there's been many times I've been sitting in this exact room I'm in right now, and I'll go through a treatment plan with the patient or what they need. And unfortunately, there's just some people that they can't afford this, unfortunately. Like, right. I wish insurance paid for this before they paid for surgeries and cortisone shots, because this could save the insurance companies a lot of money. Right. But obviously they don't think like that because they're more on the reactive mindset and reactive model. So there's been multiple times that's happened, and it's obviously heartbreaking to hear that. I do run a business, so for me to just give away free care is literally impossible. So we decided, you know what, we need to do something back for the city that's given to us so much. And so, yeah, that's our goal right now. So that's awesome. Myself, Myra, Kara, Gilligan, we all kind of sit on that board right now. And honestly, all we've been doing right now is just currently just, raising funds. And one of the first events that we did actually was Martin Luther King Day this past year in 2021. We went on Martin Luther King Day and we helped a local farmer whose place just completely got destroyed during COVID because they didn't have the employees and they didn't have the help to take care of this local farm. It's called an urban farm where they support the community with the food that they grow. So we took our entire team. There was like 15 of us that went down there, and literally what we did in one day, she said it would have taken her like 3 to 6 months. Wow. Like that was all through Chiropractic for All. So just the ways to like start getting in the community, giving back. I mean, at the end of the day, like when I'm 120 years old, because that's how long I'm going to live. Right. I'm 120 years old on my deathbed. I don't want to look back. No one looks back and thinks like how much money they had or how much money they made, right? Like it's all about the experiences. It's all about the people that we helped. I can look back, like one of the biggest highlights of my life was, I remember I went to a homeless shelter one time and I brought my wife and we bought roses for the women in the homeless shelter like almost 10 years ago. We brought in 300 roses to the shelter, and the women were like crying. They were like praying to God that they were going to get roses, and we brought these roses. And like, those are things I remember. Yeah. If you our revenue in 2019, I don't even know what that was. I don't care. It didn't matter. What matters is like those experiences and those life changes. And that's why we want to do that. So that's our mission.
And again, and it ties into the other things you were talking about with your core values. I mean, that's the part that's so beautiful about giving and doing that. So final thing I want to ask, what type of advice would you give anyone if they're listening to this podcast going, man, I want my company to be recognized. I want to be a better leader. I want to be a great place for my team to work, or even just managers, right? A lot of our listeners aren't necessarily the owners of companies, but they're high up in management or dealing with people. What are some things they can listen to or they can, implement right now to, be recognized as a best place to work?
Besides working with you guys, right?
Of course, everyone can work with us.
All right. So I would say for me, a big change was the book Extreme Ownership. And I think if any employer wants to say their company, the first thing you've got to do is obviously read that book and understand everything is on you. Right. And so a lot of companies, what they say is, oh, it's so hard to get good employees, or my employees don't want to do this, or my employees want to make more money. And it's usually not, by the way. Right. It's usually employer who's the problem. They just can't see that. Like if my employee suggests something and it's something that's maybe crazy talk, right? I'm not going to say to them, that's a terrible idea.
Right.
Like, very interesting idea. I would love to hear more. Like, versus shutting them down. And so for us, like in this company, and by the way, if one of my employees tells me, they're like, hey, you're a little hard on me. Instead of me being like, what are you talking about, you wimp? Right. It's like, hey, can you give me an example of when that happened? Because honestly, I want to learn. Like, I want to be better. Because if they feel that way, I can't take away feelings, right? Like, that's truth. There's truth in that comment. So extreme ownership, I think, honestly, is like one of the keys that most employers are missing. Yeah. Because they think they're like perfect in God's sense, where usually they're the problem. They're the one that get in their own way. And so for us, that's where I would start, is that book Extreme Ownership, and maybe even then do a survey of my employees and say, hey, no one's getting fired, but I want to learn how to be a better leader. Yeah. I want to learn how to get better. What could I do to support you more? Or what am I doing that's actually limiting your growth? Like, ask hard questions.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think ask hard questions, but ask smart questions, right? I found sometimes I've had clients of mine who have done that, or their company has forced them to do that, right? And there's a large company that we work with who did that to a client of mine, where the company said, hey, man, you got to go with your team and have them answer these questions. And they were all basically open-ended questions with some negative leading thoughts to what can make this person better. Basically, what are his issues? Well, the results that came back were just brutal. I mean, there was no growth behind it. It was just demoralizing, of who he was. And it solidified people's opinions, because now they had a place to actually put them out there. So, making sure, and that's why, like, when we do our survey with the companies like you're talking about, we're just always sure that the questions are very much, we want to lead people to find the good, right? Would you agree with that? Like find the good, but find the truth, right? Yeah, and there is truth to it that doesn't necessarily need to be bad. Like, hey, sometimes you're a little hard on me. That's fine. That's truth. But hey, you're a jerk, and every time I see you, I want to run the other way. That's hard. There's no growth from that. So I think it's a great idea. Anything else that you want to share about what you all do, about what you do as a company, what you do for your people, how you do it for the community? Anything else you could think of that we missed?
No, I think, like I said, I think honestly the biggest thing to a good step is what we talked about. 1, define core values. 2, create a system of, like, who are your employees? What do they care about? What's their motivating factors? What's their Enneagrams? What's their love language? Like, who are they and what matters to them? Yeah. And what we just talked, and then obviously getting extreme ownership. And then the last one would be asking really good questions. So instead of me just saying to my employee, hey, do you think I'm doing a good job? They're obviously be like, yeah, you're doing a good job. Okay. That doesn't mean anything. Exactly. So ask really good questions to your employees to get feedback for you to grow. And I think if every employer looked at themselves as they could use a lot of feedback to grow, right. Oh my gosh, dude, every company would be huge. It's all about expectation and standards, man. It's not that hard. So.
Yeah. That's definitely my takeaway from you is setting expectations in the beginning and letting people be okay hitting them or not hitting them, but most importantly, knowing them. So awesome. Well, Austin, I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna let you get back. I know you're a busy guy. Anytime anyone needs to get a hold of you, how can they find you, follow you, listen to you, hear you, read your book? What?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best thing for me, and just kind of like see what we do, I do tend to post on Instagram a lot about some of the things we're doing. It's just Dr. Austin Cohen, Dr. Austin Cohen. Tend to post. I'm a family guy also, so you'll see some of that. I'm a fitness junkie. You'll see some of that. I'm a biohacker. You're going to learn how to biohack. Business guy. So, kind of, I'm I'm all encompassing human, man.
That's awesome. All right, Austin. Well, hey, I'm going to, we're going to put together the show notes, get all the links, all the things you've talked about, the books you've talked about, everything in those notes. We appreciate your time, and congratulations on being recognized again and again as a best place to work and creating some of the best people in the area. All right. Have a good one, man. And we will talk to you all next episode.
Thanks, guys.